It may be quite upsetting to learn that a person you know and love is harboring a sinister secret. You've been under the impression for years that you know that person well, and then all of a sudden you find out that they're not who you thought they were. All of it was a brazen deception. Blake Roth first connected with Lori Erica Kennedy in 2003 while taking a Bible study class in Texas. She immediately drew his attention, and a year later they were married. Blake believed that this marked the beginning of an ideal relationship. You want the person you decide to spend the rest of your life with to be completely honest with you. However, if the relationship's base is weak, it may be impossible to strengthen. A man by the name of Blake Roth developed an intense romantic interest in Lori Erica Kennedy around 2003. Not long later, they tied the knot. A potential-filled, sincere friendship gradually descended into anarchy. In 2003, Blake and Lori connected during a Bible study in Texas. She had recently moved and didn't know anyone, even though she was originally from Arizona. Lori kept very little about her personal life to herself. The only thing she disclosed to Blake was that she had no relatives and had a difficult childhood. Still, Blake was enamored. In contrast, Lori's family had doubts about her from the beginning. In 2004, Blake wed his lover in a private ceremony, defying the fears of his family regarding Lori's history. There was just their preacher present. To begin a family, the couple relocated to Leonard, Texas shortly after. Blake was ecstatic to have found his true love. What may go wrong, if anything, Blake and Lori had a strong desire to become parents soon after they arrived, but it wasn't an easy road for them. Over the course of several years, Lori experienced several miscarriages. Eventually, Lori conceived a little daughter through in vitro fertilization. The couple's 2008 daughter's arrival was supposed to be a cause for celebration, but instead, it turned into an entirely other story. Lori behaved very reticent and reserved following the birth. She wouldn't even let Blake's mother to hold her since she was obsessive about protecting her kid. While Blake and Lori's acquaintances believed that they were the ideal pair, Blake's family was beginning to have doubts about his wife. Lori refused to discuss her own family history, but she grew obsessed with Blake's. There was a problem. Lori's overbearing manner ultimately got to Blake's family as she forbade them from visiting their granddaughter at all. Lori went into a depression as a result of what seemed to be unsustainable tensions between Blake's family and Lori. In 2010, Blake and Lori made one last effort to repair their failing marriage by going to counseling. But it was too late. The couple filed for divorce in the spring of the following year because Lori had changed since Blake fell in love with her 7 years before. Lori saw a sharp worsening of her depression in the months after they separated. She lost weight and, while fidgeting with her hands, would babble on about her difficulties to the pastor of her church many times a week. By the end of 2010, Lori was unable to cope with her sadness and the breakup of her marriage. Lori parked her black Tahoe outside Blake's family's house on Christmas Eve of 2010. Subsequently, she retrieved a shotgun she had brought along. On Christmas Eve night, Lori tragically shot herself while driving the Tahoe. The following morning, Blake's father discovered her dead and 2 suicide messages. The text on one was for Blake and the other for their daughter, but they were entirely unreadable. Blake's family was unable to comprehend what had occurred. No one believed she was capable of suicide, even though they all knew she was unstable and miserable. However, Blake discovered his family was correct all along when he was going through Lori's possessions shortly after. They had excellent cause to be wary of her background. Blake once found a sealed black lunchbox he'd never seen before under some boxes in the back of a closet he shared with Lori. He had a strange suspicion that what was in the box would forever alter his perception of Lori, but he had to find the truth. Blake was assisted by a policeman in opening the package. What they discovered within astounded them both. There were many state-issued ID cards, a birth certificate bearing a name Blake had never seen before, and a 1988 legal name change paperwork. At the time of the shift, Lori would have been 17 years old. What was happening in this situation? Blake and the officer closely scrutinized the evidence. According to the name change paperwork, in 1888, a woman by the name of Becky Sue Turner changed to Lori Erica Kennedy, Blake's ex-wife. Blake, however, discovered upon further investigation that Becky Sue Turner was, in fact, a child who, at the age of 2, perished in a home fire in 1971. This bit of information caught everyone off guard. Officers now had the task of identifying this mysterious individual and determining her motivation for taking the identity of a kid who had perished in the home fire many years prior. Police detectives quickly learned that Blake's enigmatic ex-wife, Lori Erica Kennedy, had gotten a Social Security card and state ID in Idaho in order to receive her GED and a business degree from the University of Texas. However, no matches were discovered when police searched their databases for her fingerprints and face. Who was this woman exactly? Investigators learned via an old acquaintance that Lori was a stripper back in the early 1990s. But before 1908, there was no information at all associated with her. For years, a Social Security investigator worked to find the truth, but all of his leads ended abruptly. Eventually, in 2013, Colleen Fitzpatrick, a genealogist, discovered the strange circumstances behind Lori's marriage and her suicide. In an attempt to make a link, Colleen collected a DNA sample from the daughter of Blake and Lori. She found that she had various relatives spread out throughout the globe, the closest of whom lived in Pennsylvania. Colleen notified the detective, who immediately boarded a plane to Pennsylvania in order to meet Michael Cassidy and his family. One of the family members identified Lori as Kimberly McLean, who vanished from her family's Pennsylvania home in 1986 at the age of 17 after viewing her ID photo almost instantly. Lori's mother had married a guy she detested, but even after the revelation of the truth, there were still unanswered questions and periods of time during which Lori's whereabouts were unclear. Regretfully, if this woman had any more secrets that she was keeping from Blake and the public, she took them with her to the hereafter, where they would never be found. Realizing your spouse has been keeping a sinister secret from you for years is a difficult thought. Hopefully, the traumatic experience was behind Blake and his daughter.